Hey, welcome to the Gig Life Podcast. I'm your host, Stevie Taylor. Now, before we rip into our chat with Nina Ferro, I thought I'd give you a quick update on some new music and projects that have recently been released by some of our former guests of the Gig Life Podcast. Peter Lushcombe plays wonderful drums on Paul Kelly's new album called Paul Kelly's Christmas Train. Pete Drummond's mind-altering drums are all over the new Light Beyond Sleep album. Darren Mathiasen and Sam Trevithick feature in the new Shapeshifter album called Rituals. Declan Kelly has a wonderful song out called Billy's on Her Way. Jim Kelly's back with You Gotta Love the Drummers Volume 2, and A. Brown's also has his new debut album out now called The Confidence to Make Mistakes. So please go and track down these albums and songs and check them out. Buy them if you can. Also, gigs are back. Get out there, get to some gigs, and show your support and help rebuild our wonderful live music scene. So, my guest today is Nina Ferro. What a voice. In my opinion, one of the most stunning and dynamic voices I've ever heard. She seamlessly crosses genres from pop, blues, funk, and jazz, and she's got a fantastically positive attitude towards everything. So, this is episode 126, and I hope you enjoy my conversation with Nina Ferro. Kick it off, eh? Oh, I think we're rolling. Nina Ferro, welcome to the Gig Life Podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, Stevie.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you, and those of you who are listening, I can actually see you, but we're just disembodied voices at this point.
Yeah, that's right. But you can't see us, so
that's right.
Yeah. So you're in Melbourne. You're getting a bit of freedoms now, and things are opening up. Are you gigging again? You were gigging the weekend. I saw on your social media.
Yes, I was. So yeah, we've been out gigging again for a little while, and we have our freedoms again. And it was a very long couple of years, I can tell you that much. So it's been really fantastic to get back out there. A little bit trepidatious, like I'm kind of going out like a bit of a baby, gazelle, one step at a time, and seeing family and friends and catching up with people face to face. And we're all coming out of it. So there's a little bit of trauma still around all this. People are
for sure,
really feeling all sorts of things, and we're just really aware of that with one another. And it's why I love the industry. I love the people, the community in the arts industry, because we get it and we are there for each other, So yeah, it's okay. We're all good. We're coming out of it. Yeah,
that's good. What was that feeling like, that first gig back?
Are
you at a stage there in Melbourne where you've got full crowds, or is it still sort of?
We have now, yes.
Oh, wow, awesome.
As of the weekend just gone, we're up to full capacities again. So my first gig back, we still had restrictions, and so I did instead of doing one show, we did two shows and turned the house around. So that was really great. Everyone was excited. They were all happy to be there, and it just took a bit of getting used to. Look, I've made sure that I stayed, I did a lot of singing through all of the lockdowns. I continued to work my craft because I knew that as soon as we got out, if I'd have had to start from, zero again, it would have been a really tough situation, really tough going. So it's still, there's still that extra bit where I did 3 gigs on the weekend, and I woke up yesterday and I was exhausted.
Oh yeah.
There's that little element, that extra element of being, of going out live and doing that, and it took a while. It's going to take a while for that muscle to build up again.
That's it, and we kind of get used to going to bed early, eh?
Oh my gosh, there's also that, yes. I'm like, what do you mean I need to be up past 10 p.m.?
I know.
And what do you mean I can't wear my hoodie to my gig? That's got to change immediately.
So, you were talking about so you'd be doing 2 shows a night. So, I mean, that I guess that wouldn't be something that you were used to doing when, back before COVID. It would have just been one full show.
Yeah, or two sets with the same people in the room. But because of the restrictions, to make it work for the venue and for the artist, I suppose, we had to, in those initial stages, we kind of, as artists, had to work just that little bit harder to do what we normally do. But that's for the most part, that doesn't need to happen anymore. However, I think some venues and some artists go, well, actually this works well. It's that New York style thing where they have a show and you see that, and then they go and the next lot come in and you do it again. And as long as it's viable financially or otherwise for both the artist and the venue, then there can be something good about that. Yeah. But as of now, it doesn't seem to be, I don't seem to be booked in the same way as that, because that was pretty much the norm anytime we were out of lockdown, because we always had those caps and those restrictions, those density quotas. So we don't have that anymore. So we'll just see what happens now.
That's good. So the diary's starting to fill up again?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, look, it's slow, and I'm also being a bit picky about what I'm doing, because if the last 18 months to 2 years has taught me anything, it gave me the opportunity to have a really good look at my life and the kind of gigs I've been doing, and what do I want to do now. And I feel like in this initial stages, I'm happy to be out there and I'm doing them, and it's great fun, and I'm connecting with people again. I'm connecting with my fans, just audiences, people, other musicians, the venues again. And I'm also being mindful about, what I actually want to achieve and how I want to present myself, my music, all that kind of thing. So
I know people just generally outside of music or whatever, but they see this as a reset. Hey, like they're just
absolutely.
Before that was just, I don't know how I went. I don't know how I was stayed that busy, and like it's crazy. I'm a little bit like that. The thing that's bothering me the most now, especially Sydney. I mean, I was lucky enough to be able to work through COVID, but there was hardly any traffic on the roads.
That's exactly what's going on here.
Man,
and we've all forgotten how to drive.
Exactly,
it seems. Not me.
No, not me either.
But everybody else, and it takes. It took me an hour and a half to do a distance that should really have only taken me 40 minutes at the time of day that I was going, and I just went, this has got whiskers on it. I'm not happy with this. What's going on? And then the cost of petrol, and look, like I said, it's going to take a while for things to balance out again. We can't expect to just go back to how it was. That's never going to happen. And to find some equilibrium with everything again.
Because I come from a small town in New Zealand, and if you ever saw more than 4 or 5 cars driving along a road at the same time, you'd think there was something on, right?
That's your peak hour, is it?
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not saying it got quite that quiet here in Sydney, but and my mum and dad, they live up towards Gloucester way now, and we went up there, and it's so very quiet, and it kind of reminds us of being back in New Zealand, and then and that feeling for me when I first arrived in Sydney from this small town, and just seeing it was just the shock of all the traffic. It's kind of like that again.
It's chaos.
I know, right?
It is. It's unadulterated chaos. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, but that's cool. All right. So what I think we might do now, if it's all right with you, we'll roll right back to how it all started for you. And so you were born. You're born in Australia. So where in Australia were you born? And tell us a little bit about your family. Do you have a musical family and that kind of stuff?
Sure. Well, I was born here in Melbourne.
Okay.
I'm of Italian parentage. Both my parents were born in Italy, but they came out here as children with their parents, and they met here. So yes, I was born here, and I've got a younger brother. And in terms of coming from a musical family, I want to say yes, even though neither of my parents or any of the members of my family other than myself are professional musicians. They all have music talents, and they are crazy for music, when people ask me, oh, did your parents ever play an instrument? I used to say, yes, they played the record player.
Yeah.
Like that was a really important instrument in our house. It was constantly on. And we'd listen to everything from, you know, Pavarotti opera to George Benson to, you know, and everything in the middle. And they loved 50s rock and roll. So I was kind of bottle fed on Elvis Presley and that sort of 1950s, 60s type music, which is wonderful music because it incorporated so much of what I ended up doing in my own career. I never really grew up with jazz, but I became a jazz singer. And once I started studying jazz, I realized just how much jazz I'd actually listened to by listening to these other artists. So it was a great education across section, and it was always a happy situation. Music was always being played. And so for me, that was the biggest influence. We've got painters in the family, you know, back in Italy, I've got an uncle who's a painter, and my brother paints, my dad paints. My brother's quite musical as well, plays instruments, and he's a natural born actor and comedian, even though he doesn't do any of this as a job. My mother's got a beautiful voice. My dad's mother was an opera singer, again, not professional, but was a mezzo-soprano opera singer. So there's a lot of, there's some lineage that's there. And I'm the one that just kind of took it on as a career and was always supported in that choice too. So I was really quite blessed that both my parents supported me very, very much in my desire to be a jobbing, performing, living, breathing musician, creative person.
Cool. Do you remember around the moment or around the time you first started singing? Were you singing along to everything?
Oh yeah, I was.
Forever?
I remember. Yeah. I've been singing along to everything, and I was dancing as a child as well. So I was always in that sort of that side of things. And my mum used to dance, and she was very sporty and all that kind of thing. Loved music, wanted to play the piano. So again, very supportive of me wanting to do all these things. And I remember I was in all the school musicals and the choirs, and I studied voice at school, excuse me. And then my first gigs, I think I was about 14 or so. And I did, my mum's friend from work was getting married. And so she asked if I would sing a couple of songs. I think I sang Eternal Flame and something else. I can't remember what it was. And then I love harmony singing. That's always been something I've loved doing, backing vocals and stuff. I was at my dad's house one day, and I was watching video hits. Gives you my age. And, I was watching video hits, and I was literally singing along to everything and doing harmonies to everything. And a friend of my father's happened to be there this one particular Saturday, and she was a singer, and she heard me singing, and she said to my dad, you know what, I need a backing singer for some shows that are coming up. Do you think Nina would want to do that? And he's like, well, ask her. So she came into the lounge room and she was listening for a while. And then, we got to chatting, and she just said to me, look, I've been listening to you sing, and, you're picking up all these harmonies and you're strong. She's like, do you want to, I've got gigs coming up, floor shows and blah, blah, blah. She said, would you like to be my backup singer? And I was like, sure. Why not? So I kind of started doing that when I was about 15. Yep. And then, just took off from there. I started going around to jazz gigs that my mum would go to, and she'd drag me along, and I'd get up and sing. And so I sort of started it that way when I was about 15 or 16. And by the time I was 17, 18, I was, doing gigs on weekends and stuff. I remember my mum used to pick me up from my day job. I'd leave school, I'd go to my day job, my after school job thing, and that would finish at 9 p.m. and she'd pick me up, and my clothes would be in the back of the car, and I'd get dressed in the back of the car, and she'd take me into the city. And I had a regular gig at what was the Hilton on, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember where that street was. I think it's now the Pullman on something. The Pullman it's in the city on the top where the MCG is. Can't remember the street. Anyway, there used to be.
Hang on, I can't help you because
you're from Sydney,
well, that doesn't matter. I've never been to Melbourne.
Oh my gosh! Well, you must come to Melbourne.
Yes,
it's a great town.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, but she used to drop me there, and there was a place called Decanters, and I would sing from like 10 p.m. till 1 a.m. Then I'd that one of the guys would drive me home, and then I'd get up at 7 a.m. and start work again. And that was the weekend. I'd work, and then I'd do homework, and then I'd go to gigs, and then I'd go home, and then I'd go to school. And so I got a really great start with my life, with my career.
What was what was the day job?
Oh gosh, it was just, I think I worked at Sports Girl, and I had a job at the supermarket first, and then I moved to Sports Girl, and retail. It's just that kind of after school job that we all get when we're 16, 17, 18, that kind of thing. Yeah.
You spoke just a little bit before about singing harmonies. Now, was that something that was this at a stage after you've been taught to sing and that kind of thing, or have you always been able to kind of pick a harmony and sing the harmony before you were taught about harmonies? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And I've never actually, I haven't really thought about it until right now. And I will say that part of it was just this natural thing, and then the other part of it was, the honing in on the craft of it, and being taught by really good music teachers. And one of the best ways to learn harmony singing is to be in choirs. Yeah, right. Where you have to hold a part against other people, and I learned how to sight read at that stage when I was younger as well, and I was playing the piano from about the age of 8. Yep. So that helped a lot as well. And anyone who kind of has worked with me or sings with me always say to me that it's a really strong natural thing that I've got, this just being able to pick the harmony parts, and as much as I love being a lead singer, and that's who I am, I sing, I do all that, but give me an opportunity to sing harmonies and I'm just a pig in mud. There's something really spiritual for me about hearing voices blend together like that. It's the most profound thing that we can do, because it's the most truest and oldest instrument, Wow, as well as percussion, I guess, but the voice is kind of one of those primal instruments, and it's a great thing.
That's really cool. I was going to ask this question a little bit later, but you already answered it about reading. So you can sight read now.
Oh, look, when I say I can sight read, it's at a good enough level for what I need to, and it was better then. Like I didn't, once I started doing gigs and it's all jazz and it's by ear and
it is something you have to stay on.
Yeah, and I didn't learn piano by I learned by ear firstly. I didn't learn to read until much later. So everything I did was by ear anyway, and I think that's what helped get that strength in being able to pick things really quickly. Yeah. And then the reading came a little bit later, and I having you ask me that question, probably one of the only regrets of my life is not actually doing more of that and being a stronger reader at the moment. Okay. I've worked on it over the years, and it's gotten stronger over the last 5 or 6. But it's one of those things. If you don't do it a lot, you tend to lose a bit of it.
Yeah. So another question on the reading then. Do you have? I don't know if perfect pitch is the right word to say, but if you're looking at a sheet music and it's got, say, the middle C or whatever, can you sing the middle C?
What that's called, what most people have is relative pitch.
Relative pitch, that's the one.
Yeah, I don't have perfect pitch, but you can work it in such a way that you're pretty much close to it. Like these days, I could, as long as I've got music around me, I can go, yep, I reckon that's as close to a middle C as I'm going to get without actually knowing that.
Yeah, I meant a way, like if you didn't have music around you.
I can get close to it, but and if I got on it, it would be a fluke. It's not something I can go, that's definitely a C. Yeah. But I can get pretty close to it. Yeah.
Do you know people who can do that?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, well, okay. People. Right. Yep. And is that a natural thing for them, or is that something that they've trained? Because there is a training to get to that point, isn't there?
Well, actually, I'm not exactly sure if this is true. It's something that I heard or read a while ago, but I think we're all born with perfect pitch, and then it gets blown because we hear a nursery rhyme and we hear it at different pitches all the time.
Oh, right, wow.
But I think it's actually perfect pitch is more natural than it is learned, but you can learn to strengthen your existing pitch.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't want to say anything that's completely wrong because people will be listening to this going, no, that's not correct. So yeah, but perfect pitch is something that's actually just there as a from the beginning.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, so before I pulled you off, you pulled off the track of you talking about you're around sort of 17, 18 now, and you're working and you're out doing the two jobs, study and all that sort of thing. What kind of music were you sort of singing at that stage? Was it? I mean, you said jazz came a little bit later.
Yeah. So when I was younger, pop. To be really honest, I listened to the radio. Okay. Like, I got the old school stuff from my folks, which I'm really appreciative of. But everything else I was listening to was the radio, the top 40 hits, and because I was kind of growing up in the 80s and stuff, we're talking Madonna and Cyndi Lauper and Prince and all that sort of stuff, Daryl Hall and John Oates, and loved it. I love pop music. I really do. I love pop music. Jazz came in a really bizarre way into my life, and it came sort of flung out of nowhere and just landed in my lap, and then bang, it was something I was good at that I didn't know I would be good at. And then in retrospect, I understand now why, because of all the music I listened to with my folks.
Right. All right. Well, can we talk about how you got into jazz then and how that came about? So
yeah. Well, there's a couple of ways, a couple of really important ways, actually. The first one was I did get into a little bit in high school due to my best friend. So my best friend in high school, her brother was a piano player and played, what else did he play? He played clarinet, beautiful singer, but really gorgeous piano player. And he introduced me to, jazz standards and just jazz in general, like vocal jazz predominantly. So we're talking predominantly like Blossom Dearie. He loved Blossom Dearie. So there was Ben, and he became a member of my jazz band in the early days. Mm-hmm. So that was happening on this side. And then my mum, because I, my association with Ben and Emma and just hanging out and singing music with them, my mum had gone to a pub in Williamstown here in Melbourne, and there was a jazz band playing upstairs. Her friend took her, and she came home that day. It was a Sunday afternoon gig, and she came home and said, I'm going to take you to this place next week. Because I got talking to them and I said to them, look, my daughter's a singer. And it's that thing of the band's going, yeah, right, whatever. So, Mum just went, but she wouldn't have understood that whole thing. That's just an inside joke with musicians and
gotcha.
stuff,
Because it's the greatest.
God's girlfriend's a singer and all that stuff.
But
my mum's like.
Yeah, but the mum and the dad are thinking they're doing the greatest thing for their child. But
and think their child is the best thing since sliced bread.
Exactly.
Anyway, but beautifully, though, one of the gentlemen in the band, very, very gorgeous man, it's actually Matt Hetherington's father, David Hetherington. He said to my mum, bring her down and I'll have a chat to her. And so she did. She brought me down there and he took the time to talk to me. And I think I sang a little bit for him and he his ears pricked up. And so he said, look, come back next week. I'm going to have something for you. So I came back the following week. And he handed over a cassette tape, 120 minutes, so an hour on each side. And he had filled it with all of the greats. He'd put Billie Holiday, Louis Armstrong, Ma Rainey, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald, you name it, they're on it. And it was this amazing mixtape. And I still have this mixtape.
Oh, cool.
Of all these beautiful, Bessie Smith, all of the real greats of the time. And he just said, go and have a listen to this. He just gave me some information of what to do next. And so I went away and I think I learned a couple of songs and I came back the following week and he got me up to sing. And that was the start of it. Mm. They all heard and just went, oh, okay. This young lady might have something to, she's got something. And so it didn't take too long for it all to kick off, really, in that way. I went back in those days, we had more opportunity to play and to get up and sing with people, and there were more jams happening. There was just more happening at that stage. Yep. And at that point in my career, I didn't have a career. So I said yes to everything in terms of getting along, meeting people, having experiences, good, bad, or otherwise. It was the only way to learn, and it was the only way to figure out who I was as well as a singer. So that's kind of where it started. I was about 16, 17. And then by the time I was 19, 20, I made my first album when I was 20. I recorded it on a little analog tape thing in my boyfriend's lounge room. So, that was in actually, no, I was a bit older than that. Maybe I was 21. Anyway, I think it was 1994 I did my first album, and a jazz album. Yeah. So yeah, it grew from then on. Yeah. But that's how it started.
That's cool. And
I never anticipated being a jazz singer. I never expected to be a jazz singer. I'm not quite sure what I wanted to be. Right. But jazz singer wasn't actually on the list of things. I probably thought I would do pop, or I loved soul, because Aretha Franklin was my absolute hero, and I do that now, and I always did it. Yeah, I always did it, but jazz just gave me a beautiful career, and it still does. And I'm really grateful for that.
Right. So you stuck to the jazz more because that at that time, I'm not taking away from jazz at all, but because that was giving you the career, like you said. Or was it all of a sudden I'm just fully in love with jazz and all I want to do is jazz?
It's kind of in the middle.
In the middle, yeah.
Yeah, I love jazz.
Of course, you got to, okay.
Yeah,
I probably worded that wrong.
No, you didn't. So jazz came into my life in such a way that it created a lot of excitement for me. I was learning more about music in a way that I hadn't before, because I'd been a classical singer before that, and doing some stuff at school. And so all of a sudden, and singing pop music. But then there was this incredible music art form that was so rich in its culture and its musical language. And I got to learn so much more about harmony than I'd already enjoyed doing. It just broadened my horizons. It broadened my musical mind. It also broadened my networking. Like, I met a lot of people. All my closest, dearest, oldest friends are from the jazz scene, and it's not that I knew it at the time, but it was making me into the singer and the musician that I am today. And that's why I think, everyone, regardless of what they end up wanting to move into more specifically in their music career as a singer, or, any kind of instrumentalist, everyone should spend some time listening and learning the jazz art form, because there's so much content. It's so rich in its knowledge, and so I think that's like I said, it came out of the blue. I didn't expect it, but I'm so glad it turned up in my life, and I'm thankful for it every day.
That's cool. And it also would have introduced you to different types of musicians, like the way instruments are played.
Absolutely.
Different than you would be if you were playing in a pop band or a covers top 40 type band,
And look, to be really honest, all the people that I work with, we're all incredible, like, crossover people.
Versatile,
They're so versatile. A lot of the people that you might see on a stage, banging out some thrash metal, are incredible improvisers with jazz, because that gives you your facility and your ability to move through changes and to be really quick off the mark on stuff. The one thing that I love about jazz and what it's taught me to do is be able to get myself out of a jam really quick. Because of that improvisational skill, it makes you really you're adept at moving through things. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. Now you spent I may be jumping forward here, and we can always bring it back, but you spent a decade, just over a decade or so in the UK.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
So how did that come about? How did you end up getting over there and tell us the UK story?
Well, from the age of 20, I started touring overseas. So I was going to, with a band at the time, America and then Canada. And then the next year we'd tour Europe, and then we'd go back to America the year after that and Europe. So for really quite a long time there, I would spend most of Australian winters in the Northern Hemisphere.
Okay.
And loved it, and decided that I needed to, and I wanted to leave Australia and pursue my career overseas for all kinds of reasons, some of them professional, some of them personal. And I had visions of living and working and being in New York and making New York my home base. And then September 11 happened and things got really awkward and hard.
Were you there? Were you in New York?
Not at the time. No, I'd been back and forward and back and forward. I've been to America a lot. I've seen 40 of the 51 states. I hired a car. My boyfriend, the first time I went, my boyfriend at the time and we hired a car and we drove all across the United States, and we did something like 11,000 miles in 8 weeks.
Wow.
And so I went back and I just loved it. So that was always something that I had planned to do. And then things changed, and then they increased, the UK had increased the age for their holiday working visa.
Yep.
And that meant I was then eligible for that. And so I went for that and I moved to London.
Okay.
And within a year of moving to London, I got a residency run at Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club in London. They had shut it down to renovate it. And then as they were reopening, they'd created a house band as the support band, really awesome musicians. And the piano player had seen me perform at a concert, not too far ahead of that, and got my number, and then called and they gave me a whole bunch of dates, and I was sitting there writing them in the diary. And when he finished, I went, "Look, this is amazing. This is all fantastic." I said, "There's just one tiny little issue." And he's like, "Oh yeah, what's that?" And I said, "My visa runs out right in the middle of all of this." Oh. And he said, "That's okay, we'll sponsor you." So my working visa, first one that I was sponsored for in the UK was actually Ronnie Scott's. They sponsored me.
Wow, that's cool.
And from there I managed to find other ways, and I got sponsored, and I ended up being a citizen. So I have a British passport. I'm actually a British subject and an Australian one now. But yeah, so I started off there. So in that first year, I just, like I did when I first started here, I kind of got out there and I sang, and but by then I had a good website, so people could actually see what I'd done before. But when I moved to London, it was a really weird one, because I had literally spent more time in any other place in Europe and America than London. I had only been to London for a few hours once before. I knew basically nobody.
Yep.
And so I turned up in a huge city with barely anything. So I built it up from bones, which I'm pretty proud of, because it takes a lot of energy and and just gumption. But I went out there guns blazing, and I had an amazing time, and it turned into almost 11 years of my life, and I loved every single second of it. And I'm also grateful to have come home. Like it was time for me to come back. So the decision to come home was, it was the right one at the right time. And but loved it, loved London, loved being in the Northern Hemisphere, loved being so close to the rest of the world in that way, and meeting people, and some of the opportunities that happened there, unfortunately, could never have happened here, just because of our geography and the fact that we have such a small population. And I know I'm not saying anything that we don't know.
No, that's right. You're not offending anybody there. Not at all. That's what it is.
Because the level of musicianship here is fantastic. It's really
for sure,
top. We're just, as Lenny Henry, the comedian, said, you shouldn't be called Australia. You should just be called far. And I've never forgotten that.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. That's cool. Now, when you said you had that residency at Ronnie Scott's, and you also got to play at Wembley, and you played at the Royal Albert Hall, and can you talk of those experiences? I mean, sure. Surely the sort of the history of those places wouldn't have been lost on you when you walked in there. So,
no.
I would love to visit those places. I mean, I'll never ever get to play there, obviously, but just to to be in those buildings.
Yeah, it's amazing, Stevie. The whole time I lived there for 10 years. It always took my breath away. There'd be moments where you'd be on the tube, you go from one place to another, and I felt like a mole person. And you'd get in and you'd go down and you'd come back up again, and I'd come back out, and I would always take a second to just take it in around me and look at where I was and the history. And then I'd walk into the building that I'm supposed to play in, and I'm just like, are you kidding me now? This is incredible. Yeah. It's old, and there's just so much in it. You're right. It was never lost on me just how lucky and how blessed and how fortunate I was to be walking into a place where so many people before me have performed. There's been so much going on in that room that I wouldn't even know about. It was never lost on me. So those experiences were very, very special to me, and I hold them dear to my heart. Singing at Royal Albert Hall was a big one. That room is just incredible. And I had, before and after that show, I'd seen everyone in there, from Anita Baker to Earth, Wind and Fire, James Taylor, you name it. That's who I'd seen in that room. Alison Krauss, just everyone. And I got to support with my band. I supported Charles Aznavour. Actually, he didn't last long after that. I think he died maybe a few years after that, but he was already 91, 2, 3, something like that at the time. Wow. So I got to do that show, and that was an absolute buzz. And I performed in other places in Royal Albert Hall for the Blues Fest, London Blues Fest, and that kind of thing. The Wembley Arena gigs were really awesome. I was doing some backing vocals in a small 4-group little vocal ensemble for the Zac Brown band, American band. Yeah. And we also did some recording and filming and performing at BBC London Radio. So that was
with Zac Brown as well.
Yeah, with Zac Brown.
Man, he's huge now. He's massive now.
Yeah, and they were just amazing and delightful. And walking out onto that stage, 10,000 people and just doing our thing was really amazing. Just trying to think where else that I was. Yeah, and then, touring. I did a lot of touring with different artists. For about 7 years, I was one of the backing singers with Gilbert O'Sullivan, who, if people are not familiar with Gilbert O'Sullivan, he's kind of like the Robbie Williams of the 60s in England, and he's from Ireland originally, and he's a huge singer, songwriter, and again, probably in his late 70s now, but still prolific, and wrote some big hits like Alone Again Naturally, Claire, Nothing Rhymed, and so we toured the world with him, which was amazing. And then I got to do some support gigs for and UK touring with Gregory Porter and Neil Sedaka and Juanes, the Latin Grammy winner. So, really interesting little things that were coming up all over the place. Had a ball, had a great time.
That's awesome.
Amazing. Yeah.
So what drew you back? What made you come back to Australia?
It's a funny thing. It was a life choice as well. Yep. I was getting older. I'm 48 years old. I'm not someone who's not going to lean into the age I'm at just because I'm a woman either. So as I was leaving London, I'd hit 40. I was 41, 42, and I kind of looked at it and I thought to myself, what do the next 10 years look like for me? What could they look like for me? And I spent a bit of time. Look, it probably took me about a year or so to make the choice to come back. Yep. I spent that time really looking at my future and what I wanted it to look like. And your priorities change as you get older. Sure. I have family here. I missed my family as well. And I'd done a lot of stuff in London. I could have kept going, but I think it would have I would have ended up, it was starting to become a lonely life.
Okay.
Even though I was busy doing this and busy doing that, there was a sense of, loneliness that was sitting in, and I just thought, okay, that's actually a good enough reason to want to come back home and start a new phase of life. So I came back for about a month and put some feelers out, and again, like, tried it on, put that dress on, went, does that suit me? No, let's try the next one. And and looked at it. And then when I left London, I didn't leave London completely. I put everything in boxes in storage, and because I was coming home, because when I was here for the little break, I was also approached by The Voice. And so I ended up coming back late 2015, early 2016, and went into the season 6 of doing The Voice, which was really interesting.
So did that bring you back early, or was that the timing of it? Yeah, that
was the timing of it.
Great. Awesome.
When they got in touch, I said, well, actually, I'm going to be back at that point.
Yep.
But I decided that I was probably only going to stay in Melbourne for about a year and a half, and then go back to London. But within the first 6 months of being home, everything just felt really good, and I made the decision that I was going to stay. And so I went back to London, packed up my stuff, did some gigs, said goodbye to my beautiful London urban family who I adore and I'm still in contact with, and then came back home. And it's been almost 6 years now that I've been back in Australia. So I've been home for almost half the time that I was there. And before I know it, that'll be gone too. I'll be back for 10.
Yeah.
So, it was a hard decision. You can't, anyone who's done a lot of traveling or have lived a significant amount of time in a certain place will tell you that it's heartbreaking, because you do leave a part of your heart in these places. And it took a while to really settle back in and feel okay, and grieved. There was a loss as well. I can't be in two places, and you can't compare them. The things that were happening in London will never happen here.
Yep.
The things that were happening here could never happen there, and I can't have both.
You're kind of torn, eh?
Yeah, you're torn.
Yep.
I think yep. Good on you, Natalie Imbruglia. Yep.
Yeah.
Nothing's right, I'm torn. Yep, that's exactly how
Speaking of Natalie Imbruglia, I'm not making this podcast about Natalie Imbruglia, by the way, but I've been listening to that Daniel Johns Spotify podcast, and of course, Daniel Johns and Natalie Imbruglia were married, so it made it, because I used to love her music. I had all her albums, and it's made me go back and listen to them again, and
they're great.
They're brilliant. Just fantastic. The first one in White Lily Island, or whatever it's called. That is just awesome. What a fantastic. Yeah. Anyway, it just reminded me of that. So sorry.
In fact, I think she's got a new album out. She put an album out recently.
Right.
I have not heard it, but I will. But yeah, she's great. So yes, I was torn, and and I knew that would happen. Like I couldn't make the decision based on not feeling pain. That's not life. We're going to feel it. It's just the way it goes. But and like I said, it was absolutely the right decision. If it hadn't been the right decision, I would not be here right now. I'd be back there.
Yeah, that's cool. So you trusted your gut. That's good.
Yeah.
Did you have any plans to have gone back there in the last, maybe 2 years ago before COVID?
I went back in 2018.
Okay.
Was it? Yes, I went back in 2018.
Yep.
And I was kind of planning on going back in 2020.
Okay. Yeah, that's
another year. I probably won't get there now till 2023.
Okay.
Yeah, that's I'm aiming for that. I'm just going to test, just see. I'm just like everybody else. We're kind of just sitting back and waiting to see what happens.
How's things go? I mean, I don't tend to look too far away from sort of Australia and New Zealand in regards to the whole COVID thing at the moment. So how's it looking over there currently?
Look, they're back up to a lot of cases every day. To be really honest with you, I haven't really spoken about it with anyone for a little while. I'm like you. I've had to take a sabbatical from from COVID information. It's just overloading and kind of anxiety inducing. And
you're right.
So when I'm in touch with my friends, I want to know how they are.
Yeah.
If I need to know what's going on, I'll just turn the news on or read a newspaper and all that kind of thing. But it's like when they ask me, I will give them the the bullet points, the brush over, but
yep.
I want to talk to them about how they are, and cool. They want to know how I am, and we talk about real life things. Not that COVID's not real life things. Gotcha. Of course it is. I'm just saying that, it's like keeping a track of all the numbers and the cases and this and that and the other. We're going to be doing that for years.
Yeah.
This is part of our lives now. So it's how to get the balance now, the incorporating of all of that information, and also living our lives and trying to work through the anxiety of it too, exactly. The unknown variant. It's just, there's so much that we don't know about it as well. And we're just doing the best we can.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. All right. So you've come back to Australia, and you've been asked to go on The Voice. So you want to talk about that experience? Yeah.
Well, it was a good experience. A lot of people got in touch with when they figured out that I was on it. I had a really interesting cross section of feedback. Predominantly, everybody was very positive about it, mm-hmm. and some people that were like, asking me why, and my answer to them was, well, why not? Mm-hmm. Actually, it was an experience I hadn't had, and I've done a lot of things. But it wasn't. So you hadn't done any sort of TV before? Oh, I've done a heap of TV. Oh, but had I done a reality TV show?
Okay, no. Okay. All right, gotcha.
Up until that point, I'd done a bunch of TV. Okay. But performing on TV, that's a whole different beast.
Different thing. Yep.
It's a reality TV show that happens to be music. Sure. That's all. Yep. And so it was also strategic. I'm also a business person.
Of course.
It was strategic because I thought to myself, well, I've been away for a really long time, and this is an awesome opportunity to reacquaint people with me who might remember me. And for people who have no idea who I am, it's like, hey, hi, this is me. Mm. It was a really interesting time in my life, though. To be honest, I wished I'd have waited a couple of years to do it. Coming straight off the plane after living somewhere, packing up your entire life, I was psychologically not in a very good place. Okay. I had just had 3 operations in 18 months, so I wasn't very well either, and I wasn't feeling at my best. Okay. So I was kind of, when I look at it now and I think about the time, I don't regret anything. Mm. Everything happens when it's supposed to happen. However, when I look at it, I go, I can tell what kind of place I was in. And it meant that for me, I don't feel like I got to put my best foot forward or really show what I'm capable of. Yep. So that's okay. That's just what happens in life. And, whilst I'm still upright and living, I will continue to keep, showing people what I can do and showing myself what I can do,
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
But it was a good experience. There were some not so great things about it. And I don't regret doing it. And people have asked, would I do it again? The answer is no, I won't do it again. I'm just glad I did it the first time.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Did it open some doors afterwards once you're off the show?
Well, sort of, but not really. I mean, yes and no. It's a really hard one. Yep. That's a tricky one to answer because sometimes you don't know that it's that. It's 5 years later now, okay. 4 or 5 years later, and there are people that I met through that show that I'm still really close to. So there were some amazing things that came from it, not necessarily in form of career advancement or anything, but it did what I expected it to do when I said that it was a strategic move of being, put back into people's back into their field of vision.
Gotcha.
And predominantly for me in the scene, it meant that, all of a sudden it did for me in 3 months what would have taken me 3 years to do, which is let people know that I was back.
Yeah, right.
Because that sort of grapevine can take a bit of time, and so that sped that process up, Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Yeah. So after it, I mean, you said you weren't, you'd kind of wished you'd done it a little bit later. Did you kind of realise that at the time? Did you sort of... A
little bit.
Because it was, I mean, it would have been like a whirlwind type of situation, and then you kind of get I'm not going to say, when I say spat out the other end, that's not what I don't mean that in a bad way, but you kind of, the door's closed to the studio and you're sort of you're back out. What did you
back out into exactly.
What did you do next? Did you kind of take stock and chill out for a bit or just rip in?
Well, the thing is, I never stopped. I never stopped working even while it was happening.
Okay.
I was restricted by it though, which was a bit annoying.
Yep.
So that was the only downside. I've always been putting on shows, and I was teaching. I was building a good teaching roster of students and stuff. So yeah, I was keeping myself going. I will say that the experience of the show ending and the way that the way that things happen when that happens, it felt a little bit, we did feel a bit low. Like when I spoke to some of my, my, what do you call them? The other contestants, friends actually now, we all felt the same way. We went through a little bit of a dip, and even, to be honest, even to this day, I struggle to watch the show.
Yeah,
I do it because I've got, friends and other people that I know that are on the show, and I want to support them. But actually watching it brings up some, bit of that old feeling, which some of it's not so great.
Yeah, when I've spoken to a few people who have also been on The Voice before and mixed experiences, but the common one for the the people that don't get sort of right through towards the end, it literally is okay, there's the door, close the door.
Yeah.
We almost forgotten,
Yeah. You kind of don't hear from them until you've done something wrong. And then they let you know about it, trust me.
There was one person I talked to, they said that, the person that they had been dealing with at the show, were all really friendly, buddy, right up until almost the moment that they weren't on the show anymore. And it was like, pass them in a hallway and look the other way type situation, that's shit.
Sure. You said it.
Yeah.
Look, there could be some overhaul of those kinds of things. I think we could be doing a lot I don't want to say the word better. We could be doing it differently. There could be a more kind way and a more supportive way of the whole entire industry as well.
Okay.
I think after a little while, and not just those shows, but all of these reality shows, I'm not anti them. I'm like, wherever we are is what we are, but they become so formulaic that I go, take a risk. Audiences aren't as bland as they think they are, as we are. Like, the audiences are smarter. I think if we gave them something to chew on, they would relish that.
Yep.
We don't have to dumb them down or play to the lowest common denominator. I think that's a slippery slide, and it can make all of that feel really, I don't know what's the word, but I think it could be done a little better. That's all, just a little nicer.
Yeah. So you were on season 6. Do you know of people that have been on these last couple of seasons, and have they?
Yeah.
So it is kind of still the same.
I mean, some things have changed. I'm sure some things have changed. Yep. To be really honest with you, I haven't delved into it, and we also have to sign things. So that mean we don't talk about some of the stuff that's going on there. But I just the good thing about having done the show as well is that when singers are thinking about auditioning for the show or whatever, they'll reach out and they'll come and have a singing lesson, and at least I can give them some insight. I don't want to give the game away, but I just give them some insight and a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of wisdom, and go, just think about this. Like, just know that this may not be the thing. Yep. Why are you doing this?
Yep.
It's not, don't worry about what you're going to get out of it, because that's, life is this constant journey anyway. And there's one goal after another. This won't be the last thing. So just figure out why you're doing it.
Yep.
And then be grateful for that part. If there's anything else that happens, well, then that's just a bonus. But and especially when you're young, you think that it's your big break and it's the only one. And I also feel for that the sort of younger generation at the moment, where they haven't been given the same kinds of opportunities that I had. For example, we've just lost the wonderful Bert Newton. You know, most of I cut my TV teeth on Good Morning Australia. And just reading all of the posts on Facebook of all the people I knew, all of my peers saying exactly the same thing. You know, we all cut our TV teeth on GMA and Bert's kindness. And we had the midday show, and there was Denise and Ernie, and we had, what's that other one? Good Friday Appeal, and there were opportunities left, right, and centre, and they've disappeared. They're shrinking. And also, if you're not a household name, if you don't have a profile, there's just no space for you. So the shows like The Voice, I understand where it fits and why it's there, and where the good stuff in it is, because here's a show, here's a vehicle for up and coming younger artists to have a go. They need to have a go.
Cool. All right, let's move on from The Voice.
Sure.
Okay. You've these last couple of years, you've also been part of The Masked Singer and Dancing with the Stars.
Yes.
Yeah, as in the house band. Is that right? Right.
Yeah,
so
what's
that like? What's
that was so much fun. So in 2020, I became part of the house band for Dancing with the Stars, and it was a fantastic experience. I absolutely loved it. I love live TV. I really love live TV. And learning the songs, having to create these songs and make them sound like the originals. So just again, as an artist, as a singer, working my craft and having to just nail it. It was just it was so much fun. And then COVID hit us, and so it was a weird experience to be part of that show and then watch it morph into this thing that all of a sudden we couldn't have an audience anymore. And we I remember walking into the studio one day, and the four singers, we used to be quite close to each other, and there was this there was so much space between us, we could barely look. He was like, "Hi, how's the weather down there?" It was such an odd thing to see this unfolding, and then we had to cut the show short by one episode.
Okay.
So we jumped straight from, we skipped the semi-final and went straight to the final because it was looking, everything was coming to an end.
Okay.
And we literally finished the show, and we all tapped our feet together, we all elbowed each other with masks on, and went home, and that was the end of it. It was so weird, and we went straight into lockdown.
Yeah, wow.
And so after that, for the rest of the shows, for Dancing with the Stars and Masked Singer, everything's been pre-recorded. Okay. So we've all done studio work.
Okay.
So it's all been recorded stuff. We haven't been together as such, which is a shame. But at least we still get to be a part of something really fun and enjoyable. And it's great. I love it. I love being a part of it.
Do you think say next year everything's sort of opened up again, and Dancing with the Stars and Masked Singer, it's all back to normal again. Do you think that the producers might go, well, it actually worked out quite well when all the session singers went into the studio and we pre-recorded everything?
Is this
the thing? Yeah.
Well, yeah. Look, I haven't really spoken to anyone. Yeah. I can only imagine that. They might do that. It might be a cost-saving situation.
Yeah.
And again, here's there's yet another opportunity lost for people to see us do the thing that we do the best. Yep. This has been part of the whole issue with us feeling validated as a.
Yep.
Well, we're not, that whole thing of who's essential and who's not. I'm not even going to get into that, right?
Yeah.
And it's been a wonderful opportunity for us to show the rest of the world just how much they need us, because life is damn boring without us.
Yeah, for sure.
Life is boring without creativity, and everything's creation. Everything's creativity. The stuff we sit on, the Netflix they're watching, the books they're reading, the seats they're sitting on, it has to be created by someone somewhere. So yes, that will only time can tell with that one. Only time will tell if the networks decide that they want to continue to have that. But generally speaking, these things come down to budget. So I have no idea.
But hopefully there's, musicians and creatives on the creative team, because there are creative teams that don't have creative people with them.
Yeah, no.
They outsource.
Our team's pretty cool.
That's cool.
Our team's very creative.
Oh, that's cool. So yeah,
which is lovely.
Yeah. So hope there'd be that person that's championing.
Look, I hope so
to get
too.
everybody
I hope
back
so too.
in on the stage together.
On the stage,
let's do it together.
Yeah. It's good. Let's hope so.
Yeah. Want to ask you a little bit about your voice and how you have sort of built it. And, not maybe built. It's not quite the right phrase, but how you maintain it.
Sure.
And one question I do have about voice, because I know I'm a drummer myself.
Yes.
With a guitarist, they're wanting to get a certain speed and tone and blah blah blah, and then they set these speed goals and that kind of thing for themselves, and same with drummers and stuff. As a vocalist, do you have those types of goals as well? Are you wanting to sing in a certain range and be able to hold? I'm speaking as a non-singer here, so
sure. No, I appreciate what you're asking, and it's very similar. Like, yes, we want flexibility, dexterity, sustainability, consistency. We want to be healthy because it's a part of our body. That's one of the things that is so different from every other instrument.
Yeah, for sure.
We can't take our instrument out and leave it somewhere and let it be okay. We speak with it. So if we're under the weather, if we're not feeling well, it's going to, or even if we're, our emotional state hits us in the voice. So we're having to deal with all of that stuff. So for me, what I do is it's a 360 approach to life. I can only be a good singer if I'm making sure I'm looking after my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health, and my vocal health. I might have said that already. Anyway, it's an all-round thing. So, I get sleep, I drink a lot of water, I work out, I make sure I'm fit because it is part of my body, and the fitter I am, the healthier I am, the better it works. The more hydrated I am, the better it works. Making sure that I don't have too many stresses in my life. Like I said, mental and emotional well-being is a really big one, especially for singers. So I make sure that I'm doing the best I can on that front, which also means sometimes having to say no to things. Self-care is a big part of that situation. And then just the actual act of using my instrument helpfully and with good guidance. Like, I have my mentors. I never stopped singing all the way through lockdown.
Yeah.
The only time I stopped was when I was literally having an emotional or mental anxiety situation through the last couple of years, which we all did, and I just felt like I just couldn't do it because I had it was just hitting me. So, but the rest of the time I work on my craft. I pick something that I want to do and I work on it, and teaching is a wonderful thing. I love teaching voice, and that's how I teach. I want my students to have the opportunity to be able to work on their instrument from not just the physical side of things, but the emotional side of things too. So, sometimes a lot of singing teachers, friends of mine who are singers, we all giggle about the fact that we're basically just psychologists masquerading as singing teachers, which is absolutely true. Yeah. And that's all great. Yeah. So you're holding the space for, and any teacher would agree with that. We're holding the space for someone else to be able to be vulnerable and give themselves permission to do whatever it is they need to do, which is predominantly make a lot of mistakes.
Yep.
So, the way to kind of move through things and troubleshoot is to make the mistakes and be kind about those things and observant about them and approach them in a way that is that's less judgmental. So yeah. So, I just do everything I can to stay good vocally.
That's cool.
That's all. Yeah.
Do you think, I spoke to a bass player months ago, and he plays a certain way of bass, and it's taken him years and years to get to this point, and he told me that he hit the pinnacle of his bass playing in the late 90s, and he even pinpointed the gig that he did it on. And he said from that moment he's never been to that spot before. Right?
Again. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Now, as a singer, have you has there been a pinnacle that you've tried to get to? Have you got to it? Are you still aiming for it as a vocalist?
You're asking me if I've peaked, and I haven't.
No.
But that's a good question, because you get to this age and you think, is there any room left up there? Like, is there anywhere else I can go, creatively, vocally as an instrument?
Yep.
And what's been really amazing is that, like, even on Saturday, I did a gig on Saturday, and I started singing something, and all of a sudden, because of all the work I've done over the last 18 months or so of being in lockdowns and things and working my craft, bam, this extra part opened up.
Oh, wow.
And I just went, oh, wow.
That's cool.
Like, where did that come from?
That's awesome.
And that's exciting, because when those moments happen, you go, ooh, there's still more to come.
Oh, great.
And that's incredible. Awesome. And we're getting older, so I might lose a little bit somewhere else, but I'm gaining it somewhere else again. And that's exciting, and I'm more comfortable in my skin. I like who I am. I know who I am. I've got more to say. I think there's more depth in what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And that can only come with experience. And I make sure that, firstly, I remember that when I'm teaching younger students, and also reminding them that that's the case, that this is a beautiful lifelong friendship and journey with your craft. And if you can look at it like that, it's the one thing that will always be with you. It'll never let you down, and it'll never leave you if you don't leave it. Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing, and it'll keep going. I mean, look at Tony Bennett. Like, he's retiring now, but if he didn't have Alzheimer's, he probably wouldn't stop.
Yeah. Yep.
When I worked with him 20 years ago, I mean, he was just incredible and beautiful, and still singing as richly as he ever did, with this incredible edge of experience and life and wisdom, and that's golden. And we don't honor that enough. We're still very youth oriented, but we need to honor what experience and aging, the gift of getting older gives you.
Lady Gaga's been in the media lately, and I think she's done some singing with Tony Bennett, and what I think's cool about that is, she's introducing a new audience to Tony Bennett. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, me too. I think it's really cool.
Really happy about that.
Yeah, it's good to see that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think she's great too. I think she's a musician, and she loves a lot of different styles of stuff. And what I love about her too is that she's not pigeonholing herself into anything.
Yep.
It's like, if I want to do that, I'm going to do that. If I can do that, I'll do that. And that's a little bit of what makes it tricky at times. If you are good at a lot of things, it can be a bit confusing. But I also think, well, why should I just be one thing? I don't want to be just a jazz singer. I never wanted to be just a jazz singer. I'm still called, a jazz singer. That's the first place people go to, and I'm certainly not offended by that, because that's a compliment in my mind, because it's an incredible art form. But it's really interesting in terms of, with public perception, audience perception of what you're doing. I don't ever apologize for the fact that I do a whole bunch of different things. I like that.
Nor should you need to, eh?
No, exactly.
Yeah. Have you got plans to make any more albums?
I sure do.
Awesome. Tell us about it.
Well, I've got two. I'm going to be making two more albums. I'm hoping one will definitely be out next year. The other one possibly toward the end of next year or early 2023, I guess that would be. So the first one, I'm kind of going back to my roots a little bit, and I'm recording an album of ballads, jazz ballads, but jazz vocal ballads, beautiful ballads. So that's happening first, and at the moment I'm writing original music. So towards the middle of the year, I'll go back into the studio and record an originals album. So yeah, it's that's what's happening this year. I'm making that a focus and a priority.
Fantastic. Yeah, looking forward to that. You got I noticed you've got a very big band Christmas gig coming up in December. Yeah, do you want to plug that?
Yes, please.
Awesome.
Thank you, Stevie.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah, so the wonderful Belinda Parsons, she started a very big band Christmas about 5 years ago, and I wasn't a part of it at that point. And it was just a good, fun opportunity for them to get a big band together and play Christmas tunes with a big band. I mean, how much fun, with a couple of different singers.
Yep.
And then I think it must have been the second year I jumped on board, and we ended up with 4 female singers, and we do 4-part harmony stuff, and it's just glorious. And it's been going every year. And this year we've taken it to the Memo Music Hall in St Kilda, and we've got a very special guest, Eddie Perfect, coming in to sing some songs with us. He's just divine. We adore him, and he's such a great performer. So yes, we've got the Jack Earl Big Band. I think it's like a 18-piece big band, maybe more. I can't remember. It's big. It's a very big band. So yes, we've got the band going on, Jack Earl, Belinda Parsons, myself, Fem Belling, Eddie Perfect. We're going to be smothered in Christmas. It's going to be amazing. And that's on Sunday, December the 19th at Memo Music Hall. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to say that again. You know what? Don't even edit it out.
I wasn't going to anyway. I wouldn't have anyway.
I'm going to say that all again.
Yeah.
Sunday, the 19th of December at the Memo Music Hall from 4 o'clock till 6 o'clock. So it's a nice early afternoon thing. Then you can buzz off and do whatever you like. We'll put a link somewhere, won't we?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Tickets.
Definitely.
Tickets are selling fast though. So people are really, really excited, and really, they just can't wait to come and hang out and sing Christmas songs.
Fantastic. Awesome. All right, Nina, this has been great. I'm so glad we got to meet and
thank you.
have a chat, and
great.
Look forward to seeing you in person.
Yeah, look, I'm hoping to get to Sydney. I tried to do. I had gigs in Sydney. I had them booked, and we had to move them 3 times, and then we just went right.
We're chucking it. Yeah.
So yeah. Well, I will figure some things out and definitely come back up to Sydney and do some gigs up there.
That'd be cool. Awesome.
That'd be great.
All right.
Alrighty.
Look after yourself, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Sweet
and to you too, Stevie. Thanks for having me.
Sweet, Nina. Catch ya. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.